King Kong was directed by Peter Jackson. It was his first film after the Lord of the Rings trilogy and came out in the year 2005. The movie follows a film producer and his group of movie makers as they embark on a journey to Skull Island to shoot their movie, but of course when they arrive, the island is home to much more than they were expecting. 2005 was a great year for movies. We had Revenge of the Sith, Batman Begins, The Goblet of Fire, Munich, and Peter Jackson's King Kong. This was a great year for top tier movies, and King Kong was absolutely one of the best movies that came out in the year 2005. Also, you guys know I am a huge fan of monster movies. I love Godzilla from 2014. And throughout this review, you will notice that I'll be making several comparisons between Godzilla and this film. Let's start with this film's opening credits. They feel very old-fashioned. They were trying to capture that same vibe from the original King Kong, and they succeeded. This film takes place in the 1930s like the original movie, so it works really well in this film. Also, the set design and costume design are immaculate. They did such a great job at making this movie feel like it actually takes place in 1930s New York. Not many movies are able to accomplish this, but King Kong from 2005 is one of the few films that actually achieves this. As for the performances in the film, the lead is Naomi Watts along with Adrian Brody and Jack Black. All of them are perfectly fine. They did the best they could with what they were given. None of them give Oscar-worthy performances, but you know what? I like all of them in the film. Also, it is pretty difficult and takes a lot of talent to work in a movie that's filled with CGI because you're not totally sure what you're acting around, and the director has to tell you what to do in some scenes because you have no idea where you actually are in the film. So for that reason, I give these actors more credit than they were probably given back in the year 2005. Of course, Kyle Chandler is in this film. It's almost like he has an agreement with Hollywood to act in monster movies as well as other films that he's done 1,000 times, like being an FBI agent. I don't know what it is with this guy, but he always seems to be in the same kind of movies. Though I think the best work comes from Andy Serkis, who not only plays one actor in this film, but he also plays King Kong, and I'll get back to that eventually in my review. Now it is time to make my first comparison between Godzilla from 2014 and this version of King Kong. What this movie does so well, just like Godzilla, is that it induces fear within myself. Every time I watch this movie, I do feel somewhat scared watching it because of how realistic the tone is. When I watched Godzilla King of the Monsters, there was not a single moment in which I felt fear while watching that movie. But when I watched Godzilla from 2014 and when I watched this version of King Kong, I do feel somewhat scared watching the film because of how well it was directed by Peter Jackson. This is how monster movies should be filmed. Another comparison I want to make between the two films are the scores. They feel extremely reminiscent of each other, and I love them. Feel exactly like how a monster movie score should sound. And as I said, this movie has a serious tone, as it should. Godzilla from 2014 also had a serious tone, which I loved. I don't like it when monster movies try to act less serious, and they're the kind of movies where they know what they are, and yes, these movies can be kind of ridiculous because these things don't exist, but I still appreciate them taking this movie and Godzilla from 2014 more seriously because it makes this film feel realistic as if it was happening in real life. Godzilla, King of the Monsters did not do this, nor did Kong Skull Island. I wish Kong Skull Island was more like King Kong from 2005. Unfortunately, though, it was not. Something else Peter Jackson does so well is that he makes his movies feel incredibly epic. Just like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, King Kong is in the same boat. This movie is on an epic scale, and I wish more movies would be like this nowadays, but for some reason, Hollywood decided to throw the epic genre right out the window, and now nothing feels epic anymore. Like, what is that? Why can't we make epic movies like this anymore in the year 2020? Please make more movies like this in the future because we are in desperate need of that genre once again. If you pay attention to the visual effects in King Kong, these effects are way ahead of its time. It was a huge achievement in 2005, just what they did with the character of King Kong alone. Really, it was groundbreaking work. The visual effects team of King Kong deserves all the praise they have ever gotten making this movie. But I will add that while the CGI looks fantastic throughout this film, sometimes the green screen not so much. In some scenes like the raptor chase on Skull Island, you can tell they're using green screen. It doesn't always hold up the best in present day, but the CGI does look great. Now, if you're wondering about the monster fights in King Kong from 2005, of course, they are super exciting, really fun. I love everything that happens on Skull Island in this movie. It's one of the best aspects of the whole film. Why would you go watch a King Kong movie to not enjoy the monster fights? It's what King Kong has always been about and ever will be about. You cannot have a King Kong movie without this kind of action, and it's what makes this movie so much fun. In particular, a few of my favorite scenes when they're on Skull Island is when King Kong is fighting off the T-Rexes, when the group of men are fending off those giant bugs in that pit, as well as a few smaller moments scattered throughout the scenes taking place on Skull Island. But of course, what makes this movie so iconic is the ending. It feels exactly like the original King Kong from the 1930s. I think the ending is perfect. Alright, now let's get back to the character of King Kong. And while he is an ape and doesn't say anything, he's still a character in my opinion, and he has more of an attachment to you watching the film, the viewer, than you do to the characters in the movie. A lot of that has to do with King Kong being this innocent gorilla minding his own business, but also he's this badass protector that does anything he can to protect Naomi Watts' character throughout the film. Andy Serkis's motion capture work as Khan in the film is the icing on the cake, and his relationship with Naomi Watts' character is very touching. I actually cared a lot about their relationship in the film. And since you've grown so close to this version of Khan over the course of the film, that's what makes this movie's ending feel even more crushing. A piece of me always dies inside of me every time I watch Khan fall to his death. It's a heartbreaking ending, but at the same time, it's beautifully made, and Peter Jackson should be very proud of this ending. Also, Jack Black's delivery of that iconic line at the end is great in my opinion. Other people probably complain about it because it's Jack Black, but the way I look at it, I think he did a great job delivering that line at the end. It's one of the best lines in movie history. The way I look at it, guys, I think King Kong from 2005 is one of the all-time best monster movies in the history. Of course, this and Godzilla from 2014 are not as good as the originals. You can never be better than the originals, but I still think they're really awesome movies and super entertaining. Peter Jackson went all out with this film. I only have two bigger problems with King Kong. The first is the romance between Adrien Brody and Naomi Watts. The two characters only have about 2 to 3 scenes between each other when they're on their voyage on this boat to Skull Island. And I don't always buy this romance. It doesn't feel like they're in love. It feels like they just met each other and were like, hey, you're good looking. Why don't we get together after being together for just like 3 days and talking? I mean, there's not enough scenes for these characters to feel like their relationship is actually real. So I feel like had they added more scenes between these two characters, that could have boosted up their chemistry and made it more believable. The other big problem I have with this movie is the characters' reasoning for going back to Skull Island. When they get to Skull Island, Naomi Watts is taken by these tribe people, and Adrien Brody somehow convinces everybody on the ship to leave and go back to Skull Island to find her and take down King Kong. I don't really know why everybody on the ship would just be like, yeah, sure, let's put all of our lives on the line just for this girl that we've barely known for more than a couple of days. I just don't buy the motivation of anybody besides Adrien Brody's character in the film for going back to Skull Island. Like, nobody in their right mind would go to this island again to fight off a bunch of evil tribes people who want to kill them, as well as all these huge monsters. If their motivation from the start was not about the girl and instead was about taking down King Kong and bringing him back to New York City, that would have made a lot more sense, but that does not happen until the end of the film with Jack Black's character. It's more so just about Naomi Watts and retrieving her from King Kong. I don't know why anybody else cares besides Adrien Brody in the movie to go back and put their lives on the line. That's about it for me, though, in terms of problems. I think this movie is really great. Peter Jackson did such a good job at directing this movie. Most people would probably point out this film's biggest problem to be the length, because this film is over 3 hours long. But for me, watching this the other night, The movie went by so fast. I did not realize this movie was even 3 hours long until it was over. I was like, holy crap, that was a fast movie for being over 3 hours. The length is not a problem for me because this movie is constantly entertaining, but I can understand why for other people this would be a major problem. I think this movie is really good though. I hope they can make another monster movie just like this in the future. I'm giving King Kong from 2005 an 87%. When people talk about directors that need to make more movies, what about Peter Jackson? His last big theatrical film was The Hobbit 3. And since then, he hasn't done anything except for one documentary. So I really want Peter Jackson to come back and direct more movies like this and The Lord of the Rings because he is absolutely one of the best directors working in Hollywood and one of the greatest of all time. Peter Jackson, I love the guy and I hope he makes more movies like this in the future as well. Alright, for those of you who enjoy the movie King Kong from 2005, be sure to let me know down below in the comment section what your thoughts are of it, or do you hate it? I want to know what your opinion is. If you're new to my channel, click the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.